This week on CrunchWeek, we're talking about Instagram's video launch, Makerbot's acquisition, and more cash for Fab. Welcome to CrunchWeek. I'm Lena Rao.
I'm Colleen Taylor.
I'm Ryan Lawler.
We are going to be talking about this week's big news. First up, Facebook and Instagram launching video, the big Vine competitor and Twitter rival, I guess. What did you guys think? You were there, right?
I was there
Colleen?
yesterday. I was actually there. I also just want to point out all of our pinkness.
Yes, we love pink
This
here.
is really
and green.
We're shaking it up. It's
Yeah.
summertime.
That's right.
We got the flowers. We got the lemonade. It's good. I was at Facebook headquarters yesterday. It was fun. Kevin Systrom came out on stage and announced video on Instagram. And I think it's amazing because, Ryan, you know, you've covered so much video that for years now, people have been saying, who will be the Instagram for video? And we had Vidi, Social Cam, a bunch of other sort of tout, a lot of places saying that they were going to try and do this, and they tried, and to varying degrees of success. But now Instagram is the Instagram for video.
Yeah,
So-
I think it's, I mean, it's a hugely defensive move, right? Like, Vine came out. Vine has been really, really successful, much more successful than any of the other, sort of independent startups that had launched over the years. But I don't really understand why Facebook and Instagram felt like they had to do this. I mean, to be honest, I think it kind of ruins Instagram. Like, I think it really, really fucks up Instagram.
Do you think that's because, the focus of Instagram is so much on photos and creating, capturing those moments in that way?
Yeah, I think if you look at the Instagram app just in the last 24 hours, you've gone from having like a bunch of beautiful photos showing up to a bunch of really crappy videos showing up in your feed, and I think it ruins the core experience of the app.
Well, what do you think about cinema? That's sort of the image stabilization technology,
Right,
correct?
right. That's only for the iPhone, and so I haven't used it. I have an Android device, which Instagram for video still has not rolled out to my Android phone yet, and I think that they're having some problems getting it to all the devices. The Play Store hasn't updated it for all of them yet, but they're supposed to ASAP.
But yeah, I mean, I guess cinema would sort of try to prevent some of the like shaky video photography from getting up there, right? I mean, Vine doesn't have this, but
Right.
is that? I mean, when you were at the event, did they talk a little bit about that?
Oh yes,
Yeah.
and there were different versions that you could see. This is without cinema, and this is with cinema. So that seems like pretty cool technology. I asked the folks at Facebook afterward if that's patented or what that is, and they said, well, they're protecting it really closely because this is something that up until now you could have an image stabilization technology for your mobile device, but it would cost hundreds or thousands of dollars. And so this is now baked into everything. Everyone who has an Instagram app has this on their phone now. So that seems exciting. And also the addition of filters might make things look more artistic, just in the same way that a normal photo somehow looks more artistic with an Instagram filter on it. They added 13 filters.
Right.
But I think what you're saying...
But none of this is really new,
Yeah.
Right. But I think that you're right. It's harder to shoot a video and make it seem good or interesting, whereas a photo, Instagram made everybody feel like they were a good photographer. And I'm not sure that we're going to see a lot of really great, compelling, high-class videos coming out.
Yeah, I thought what was awesome about Instagram, though, was that, it was one of those classic cases of an app that you do one thing and you do it really, really well.
Right.
And by sort of venturing off into this other direction or adding this other feature, it could have been like Instagram video. It could have been a separate app.
Yes.
Right.
Instead of, putting, all these crappy videos in my feed that I don't really want to watch.
So it sounds like, yeah, and you're saying this is really like messing up the Instagram experience. I wonder if that's going to be the consensus here. We've only had it for 24 hours. It's Friday right now.
Yeah, and everybody, I mean, to be honest, everybody's just sort of playing around with it. I'm sure we'll see a lot better, higher quality video being posted when people sort of figure it out and know what they're doing and make it a little bit more artistic. Right now that everybody's in test mode where they're just like, I'm going to shoot a video of my cat because it's nearby. Well,
I'm also sort of interested to see if it has any impact on Vine too. I mean, they have a little bit of, there's some subtle differences, the length of Instagram videos are longer, 15 seconds versus
Right.
Vines. But I think that it should be interesting to see if people use Instagram instead of Vine. Is
Right.
it going to replace Vine? I don't know. I mean, that's yet to be determined. I'm
A lot of
curious.
people out there think so.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I know RIP Vine was a trending topic at one point on
Right.
Twitter. So a lot of people think this is going to be the nail in the coffin for Vine, but it's still
Well,
early to tell.
I
And
know.
there's,
We'll see.
and there's
Lots
such a
of
history of like
early.
Facebook or really any of these companies just sort of like launching new applications to go after a competitor. I mean, when you think about like Facebook Poke, like that disappeared almost as soon as it came out,
Was that
right?
the Snapchat
Yeah, that-
clone?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right. I couldn't even remember. Yeah.
Or Facebook Places or whatever, which is supposed to be Foursquare. I mean, any of these apps that are sort of launched by the bigger companies, it never really kills the original. It seems to me. I don't know.
Well, we will see what happens, I guess, in the next few weeks. But want to move on to Makerbot, acquired, big news for 3D printing and hardware, acquired by Stratasys, which is actually like an old school 3D printing pioneer, apparently. But they do a lot of industrial 3D printing. So Makerbot's definitely more, the sort of new up and comer and more consumer focused. But a big deal because it was a big acquisition. It was $400 million upfront and then $200 million, a little bit over $200 million more in earnout. And so, that's a big acquisition for the 3D printing space. It makes, everyone think that maybe 3D printing is here to stay.
Yeah, I
What do you
mean,
guys think?
I think the cool thing about this is, Makerbot has grown so quickly, and they were, we had heard rumors that they were like looking for funding or whatever.
Yep.
It wasn't really clear how much of that was, to sort of grow aggressively versus how much they needed to like just keep going. But this gives them a lot to sort of go forward and continue operating, which is awesome. And now they have like a new office and a ton of people there. It's kind of crazy how big they are right now.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a good thing. It's hard to have anything bad to say about it at this
Right.
point. It seems to me like the perfect time to sell for a company like Makerbot. It's on the upswing. It needs more capital to continue to really grow and fulfill on its mission. And they could have done that by raising some more funding, positioning themselves for necessitating an even bigger exit,
Right.
which we all know can be a little risky for companies that get to a certain size and then they're almost like too big. They really narrow down the pool of potential acquirers. This, I think it seems like a great fit. Stratasys,
Yeah.
I like the language of this as well. It's a merger. It's not an acquisition.
Right,
they're
right.
really looking at it
Right.
as this is going to fundamentally change what Stratasys is.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because, Makerbot's still a startup, right? It's still a company that was bootstrapped, even though they raised money and they'd had VC investment. Stratasys is a company that can really put a lot of resources when it comes to manufacturing behind Makerbot. And I'm really curious how it goes. I mean, I love the idea, like they just built this huge, Makerbot just built a huge manufacturing plant in Brooklyn, which I thought, it's really great to see manufacturing done here in the U.S. So hopefully that stays.
And good stuff. Everyone loves Brie Pettis as a
Yeah,
founder.
that's right.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's people feel
Great
like
story
this is
there.
good. He's a nice guy. He really believes in this stuff. He's passionate. He's not someone who has had a big exit before in the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see someone do so well.
Big
Well,
win for Brooklyn.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Well,
Anyway.
speaking of another New York startup, Fab, design-focused e-commerce company, just raised another $150 million.
Yeah, you covered this. You
I
wrote
did,
our post.
yeah, at like $1 billion valuation, and they're not done raising. They're going to raise another $100 million plus in funding in the same round. So they just wanted to close this because Tencent, the Chinese internet giant, was an investor, and so they needed to close it quickly. And they had some other international investors as well. But really, they said this is about expanding our fulfillment, creating more warehouses, giving people the option to get things quicker across the world, and also international expansion. So we'll probably expect them to do more acquisitions. But why it was controversial was because they just raised last year. They just raised a bunch of money, which I think you covered last year.
Right, and this brings what's the total now that they've raised?
It's well over 300 million. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, and so
I think a lot of people are saying, I saw a lot of tweets and a lot of comments on your article just saying, can anyone really explain to me why they need this much money? I mean, especially if you're a company that's selling something.
Yeah.
Like
Did
e-commerce,
Walmart
yeah.
ever need to raise outside funding?
Right.
Do commerce companies typically need to raise outside funding to this extent?
It's
the hundreds
funny.
of millions.
I asked that same question to Jason, because Jason Goldberg, the founder of Fab, when I was talking to him about the funding, and he said, people don't realize, but Amazon, both in the private markets and the public markets, has raised billions to fund their operations. And Amazon is, of course, much more beyond just a marketplace. I mean, it's got its own gadgets and Amazon Cloud and all of the other sort of businesses. But he was saying that we need this capital to expand. But on the flip side of things, people are comparing things to this to like the Groupon. Groupon raised so much money, and then
Like $1 billion.
like $1 billion. And every time they raise, it was like further expansion. Let's acquire more companies. Let's get international quickly. And clearly they were overvalued. So we'll see what happens with Fab. I mean, are they overvalued? What was interesting that I thought came from Jason was that he gave a clear view of that the company is on a path to profitability, and he expects the U.S. and European businesses to be profitable by the end of next year. So we'll see.
What else I love about Fab, just to cut in, like is it's like the perfect story of a company that pivoted and it actually worked.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a great story.
Yeah.
But now they're getting some backlash because is it a good business?
Well, and just to be the devil's advocate here, I mean, it worked, but they're not profitable. So what do you mean by worked? Investors still like them,
they have users. I mean, they're growing. That's definitely the case. Yeah,
They're
I
still
use
around.
Fab.
Do you buy
Fab.
things?
I do. I
Yeah.
do buy. Yeah, but I buy from everywhere because I love to shop. So. Anyway, well, that is all the time that we have this week. Please tune in next week. Thanks.